CDO website advises people who might be travelling to Ukraine, if you travel to Ukraine to fight or to assist others engaged in the war, your activities may amount to offences under UK legislation and you could be prosecuted on your return to the UK. Why is there not a similar statement on the advice for travel to Israel?
Because, Mr. Speaker, the two situations are not analogous.
I think it's difficult, though, Dame Maria, to reflect on Christmas, Christianity and communities at this time without considering the situation in the Holy Land. The member for Don Valley spoke about our favourite Christmas tunes. Little Town of Bethlehem has always been one of my favourite Christmas carols. And Bethlehem, the house of bread, is the place where Jesus was born, but in a stable, most likely in a cave, laid in a manger, because there was no room at the inn. It seems in those days Bethlehem was full. And now some argue that towns and cities in this country are full. Well, the very first Christians were told that they were not welcome, that the authorities and communities would not support them, and they had to make do by themselves somewhere else. And we heard as well from the member for South West Bedfordshire, and indeed he and I were at the same meeting as the member for Eastbourne, who's here today, where we heard from the parish priest of Bethlehem and also from the Anglican Archbishop of Jerusalem about the particular struggles of the Christian community in the Holy Land at this time of year, in this time of crisis, and the impact it's having on their ability to worship and on the impact of others who want to come on pilgrimage. And that's why Christian leaders of all denominations, from the Pope to the Archbishop of Canterbury to the patriarchs in Jerusalem itself, have called for an immediate ceasefire on both sides to allow aid into Gaza, refugees out, the release of hostages and the negotiation of a peaceful settlement. And that has been echoed in calls that I have heard from thousands of constituents, many of them motivated and encouraged to do so by their faith and their faith communities. One constituent in particular, Helen Minnis, who's a professor of child and adolescent psychiatry at the University of Glasgow, actually wrote to me reflecting on the Coventry Carol, which will be heard in many carol services up and down the country at this time of year. And she said it was recently listed as one of the top 20 carols, but had discovered that it's about the massacre of the innocents. And she said a few hundred years ago when it was written, it was one of those small strident voices, and I keep thinking of it just now because it tells how every mother of every child being killed must be feeling. O sisters too, how may we do for to preserve this day, this poor youngling for whom we do sing, bye bye, lully lully. Herod the king in his raging, charged he hath this day his men of might in his own sight, all young children to slay. That woe is me, poor child, for thee, and ever morn and day, for thy parting neither say nor sing, bye bye, lully lully, lully lulla, thou tiny child, bye bye. And I hope the Minister will reflect on that and perhaps draw the attention of his colleagues in the Foreign Office to that powerful testimony. And of course it was the massacre of the innocents 2,000 years ago, as my colleague from Glasgow East said, that led the Holy Family to flee Bethlehem and make their way to Egypt, quite possibly what is today Gaza, as refugees, as asylum seekers, and what would have happened if the Egyptian authorities had decided they were not welcome there either and she'd be deported somewhere else or handed back to King Herod. In the spirit of the debate in this time of year, and of the Christian injunction to love our neighbours, even if they represent different political parties, and to do unto others as we have them do unto ourselves. Let me conclude by wishing you, Dame Maria, all the members here today and across the House, all of our staff and everyone who helps us in our jobs, all the peace and joy of the season, and a very happy Christmas.